Hello and welcome back to another weekly Q&A. This week's question is, how can I be kinder to myself? Someone asked me this on Instagram. I did specifically ask for questions this time around the inner critic. This question, it really does depend on where you are at the moment. Are there any areas that you're already being kind to yourself? Are there specific areas where you're really struggling to show yourself that kind of kindness, compassion, understanding? So there might be things that you've already tried that you know don't work for you, or there might be things that you've tried but it feels a little bit strange, it's alien to you to be kind to yourself. So when it comes to working with people, it's always very nuanced because it depends already on the language of your inner critic. It depends on how you're showing up in your life, in your relationships right now, in terms of what it is that's going to help you. That said, there is one exercise that comes to mind that I just feel like, if you don't know this, I really want to share it because in my experience, it's definitely one that people seem to really benefit from. Now, it's not my exercise. It is Kristen Neff's and it's taken from selfcompassion.org. And it's the exercise, how would you treat a friend? I used to run a course all about building self-esteem. And definitely we did an exercise that was similar to this, and it was so powerful. But for this one, like I say, you can find this on the selfcompassion.org. So first, and you can grab a pen, grab some paper, let's really dive into this. And then there's certain questions that you're going to ask yourself or think about, and then you can take this with you into your day-to-day life, and it's going to be really powerful. So first, I want you to think about someone close to you. Think about a friend and think about a time that they were really struggling and they were really feeling terrible about themselves in some way, one form or another. And I want you to consider, and you can write this down, in those times of difficulty for your friend, how would you treat them? How would you talk to them? And how would you attempt to make them feel in these situations? And you can just write down a list of typically what it is that you say, what you do, the tone of voice that you use in these situations. When you have written that, I then want you to think about a time that you felt bad about yourself and you've been going through something and you've been struggling. And I then want you to write, again, typically how you would respond to yourself, how you would treat yourself in these moments. So how would you talk to yourself? What language would you use? How would you treat yourself? What tone of voice would you use? And when you have these two lists, you can then look at them both. Look at how you would talk to a friend in need compared to how you talk to yourself and treat yourself in need. And just consider, what are the differences there? What do you notice in terms of how you talk to these two humans? And if you do notice a difference, ask yourself why. What is at play that creates this difference? Why would there be a difference in how you're talking to someone else versus how you're talking to yourself? And I want you to see if you can sort of expand your imagination. I want you to see if you can consider speaking to yourself in a kinder way. Usually when we do this exercise, and it might not be this for everyone, but often what happens is people will notice that they're so much harsher on themselves. I've run workshops where we've had people stand up and talk to each other the way that they talk to themselves, and they would cringe. They found it so difficult. They're strangers, that's not even their friends. Usually you're so much harsher on yourself. So if you did write down that you tended to be kinder and more understanding and more compassionate to your friend, I want you to imagine treating yourself with that kind of kindness. And I wonder how it feels like that would impact your life. So write down what would be different in your life, what you imagine would change if you were to start treating yourself like a friend, not just in times of difficulties, all the time. What would it be like if you was to start caring about yourself speaking to yourself, treating yourself like someone that you care about. I remember the first time I saw a quote. I don't remember the exact quote. I just remember where I was. I was getting a tube and I was going through the station. And there was this sign. It said something like, imagine if you treated yourself like you cared about yourself. And that was like my kind of first exposure, if you like, to this kind of idea. So why not try treating yourself like a good friend? Why not practice that for a week, for the next week? And so when you say, how would I be kinder to myself? Well, first do this exercise, get some ideas yourself, taking into consideration how you're already showing up in your life and where you're not being kind to yourself, and what comes natural to you when you are being kinder to people, and begin to turn that inwards. Perhaps you're going to make a list. Perhaps it's just going to be a small shift. You don't need to overwhelm yourself. Just one small change that you can make to be kinder to yourself. When you have come up with that idea, you can move through your days just reminding yourself. Maybe you'll have a note. Maybe you'll have an alarm that just reminds you of this new kind act that you're going to be bringing in your life towards yourself. And if there are times where you're particularly struggling, if you've made a mistake at work, or there's a conversation that you've had that you don't know if you dealt with it the best, I just want you to take that step back and remind yourself of this exercise. And you could literally just ask yourself, hold on, how would I treat a friend in this situation? So I hope that answers that question. Do not forget, you're enough, you're lovable, you are so, so worthy, and you are irreplaceable.